Welcome to the Performance Portfolio Podcast with Coop and Coop. Greg Cooper is the owner of Cooper Performance Coaching and lead instructor at Kodakwai Judo Club in Edmonton, Alberta. He is on the lifelong pursuit of helping others increase their performance. Cooper Allen is a top financial advisor from Barrie, Ontario, whose focus is empowering everyday families with advice, leadership, and tools that we should have been given in school. Together, they bridge the gap between performance and finance to help you create your own robust performance portfolio. With that, let's get into today's episode.
Coop, you do this often, and once again, you've dropped a great topic for the day ahead of the recording. Let the people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we should have had things running probably 15 minutes before we started this. But today we're going to talk about the concept of evolvement and how humans have evolved over time. And the core of it, Greg will probably talk a lot about it through the performance lens. I'll talk about it through the money lens. But I think we both want to talk about it through the lens of humanity and how humans have evolved for both the better and for worse. So, Greg, when I brought that up, what made you want to dive a little bit deeper into it today?
Well, the big one for me was when we were having our discussion, you were talking, not just humanity evolves, but also the tools evolve. But as that goes, as we have iPhones and new tools in the sports world and all this, the fundamentals have to remain the same. And they do remain the same, right? Like, quickly, I'll use judo as the example, right? This book right here. Obviously, this is the new edition, Dakota Can Judo. This is the original textbook of judo. Every dojo has one of these, and we all teach the throws and the moves out of this. For the yellow belts, Ogoshi, one of the first throws we teach, everybody teaches it essentially the same. They might have different cues, but the fundamentals stay the same. The break falls, those are absolutely all the same. The crawling, moving, all of that is the same. Now, there's different styles and techniques and all this other stuff that once you get to the competition side has evolved immensely, like gripping systems, thinking about judo like playbooks and all this. There's so many different facets, but day one in every dojo is very similar. Let's learn some break falls. Let's do some somersaults, some cartwheels. All that stuff stays the same. Judo was invented in 1882. The fundamentals are still the same to this day, but the sport has evolved into such a dynamic thing, and how we train for it, and the time in which you train for it, the modalities which you train for it, cross training, all this. And then you look at the top athletes in the world and you're like, look at that evolution compared to the first guys started doing the sport. So that might be an example right off the bat that I lost people on because I talked about judo and they're like, what is this guy talking about? But you could say the same thing in any sport, in any area of life. Fundamentally, we all start at the same point. It's just now we have the ability to go from point A to point F with the right scenario environment exceedingly faster than 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago even. Because of the tools we have, the vast amount of knowledge that is out there, and just where we're at as a society. So yeah, the evolution of where we're at is incredible, but it's always that key point of the fundamentals remain the same, and they have to. You can't skip that.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, like you said, if the judo example doesn't relate to people, okay, let's talk about finance, the principles of don't spend more than you make, pay yourself first, compound interest, rule of 72, time value of money, protecting your income. There's different products, there's different things you can invest in. There's ways to make better returns and pay less fees today than 10 years ago. Strategies on how to reduce your interest on your debt and pay less in tax, but the fundamentals don't change, and that's everyone wants to look for the hack. So that's money. What about transportation? Well, at one point it was the heel toe express, and then it became horse and buggy, and then it became a vehicle. At some point, somebody came up with the concept of an airplane and operated out of vision and imagination of what the future of transport could look like, as opposed to just their history of watching people walk from place to place. So the fundamentals, having said that, though, the tools have changed. The tools have evolved, but the fundamentals of, like you said, Greg, I need to get from point A to point B and eventually point A to point F, that hasn't changed. If I want to go from my house to your house, whether I'm taking a car or whether I'm walking or whether I'm flying a helicopter, the fundamental is I need to transport myself to you.
Mm.
So yeah, I love that topic. And let's switch gears for a minute over to the humanity lens. I've got a few thoughts top of mind, but where do you see in society where we've evolved the way that we're supposed to, but maybe forgotten a couple core human fundamentals? Like, is there one that really stands out for you?
Communication. We've never been so connected, but we've never been so disconnected at the same time. You can get pings and dings and texts and all of this stuff instantly. I mean, even right now, you're in Barrie, Ontario. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta. We're thousands of miles away from each other, and this is happening. We have this podcast because of that. This, I would say that example is like, oh, great, this is positive because there. But on the communication side point, it's created this, and we've talked about this before, this loop of need for instant gratification and tick, 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 tick. And it's created this anxiety in our world where, now if it's not on the phone or if it's not on a dating app or if it's not on a email, people don't know how to go up and just talk to a stranger at the coffee shop while they're waiting in line for their espresso. Hey, good morning. How are you? Oh, just going to work. Oh, what do you do? There's no real conversation. Like, I don't even consider that small talk. Like, people are like, oh, that's small talk. I don't have time for that. No, that's when somebody texts you like, hey, what'd you have for lunch? And that is the communication break that has been created. Man, these can be such powerful tools, these little phones. They're the first computer made, it would take like, I don't know, probably a million of that computer to equate to what this iPhone can do now. Like, but yeah, communication to me has just become a lost art.
Absolutely. I'll even take that a step further is first and foremost, I love what you said about the brief conversation with someone not being small talk. But of course, you're not going to go deep into the ins and outs of somebody's life when you're meeting them. It's a barista at a coffee shop. But yeah, you should smile and try to say something to them that's going to make their day, or at least talk to them like they're a human and not your coffee servant. So yeah, that's not small talk. That's just being a good person. And sometimes people, that's the thing is people take these phrases and they apply them to scenarios where they're not actually applicable. Yeah, small talk. Do not text me. Hey, crazy weather we're getting. Hey, what did you have for lunch today? Right? Yeah, like no. Even the hey, how are you? Like, did you get hacked? And then when people are like, they put R and U instead of actually spelling out the words, it's like, what do you do with all your free time from the time that you save and not spelling things out like a real human? Like you're texting like we're in grade 8 still. Like if you want to shoot me a text, hey bro, I was just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. If you get some time to catch up at some point, let me know. That's a lot different than hey, how are you?
Mm.
Because hey, how are you could very well be okay, is the next message a pitch? Is the next message asking for money? Is the next message you need something? What is it?
Yeah. Well, it's because people don't know how to open it up. And I actually just saw a clip on this, a reel on Instagram. I don't know who the woman was, but she made such a fantastic point. And it was more about communication in like an intimate relationship, but it goes far beyond that. And she was talking about the busiest man she ever dated. And he was like business owner, like one of the guys from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. doesn't stop. But she was talking about how he always replied to her like right away. Not because he felt like he needed to, but because she was a priority to him. Yeah, he didn't in the middle of a meeting or, abandon the important for the urgent because she wasn't urgent, but she was a priority. And this is the gap in the communication we've seen where it's now no longer a priority. And to bring it back to not just make this completely about communication, it's, the lack of priority we have now because we have all of these crazy convenient tools. Oh, this fitness program. Oh, this, even people when they get a coach, sometimes they rely so heavily on that coach, then they stop doing it for themselves. And then they're always going, well, you know my goals, you know what I'm doing. Yeah, but it has to be yours. Oh, well, I got the greatest hockey stick. My dad bought me his $900 hockey stick. So clearly I'm going to make the AAA team. Priorities a little shifted there. Did you practice shooting first? Did you practice shooting at the garage door and denting it up? Did you practice shooting into the washing machine like Sidney Crosby? Did you practice the fundamentals before you got that tool? Because I promise you, if you practice the fundamentals with a Sherwood stick from Canadian Tire, yeah, you might not be able to do what the new sticks can do as far as shot power and lift and all this stuff. But if you can't do it with that tool, having a better one is probably going to make you worse. And that can be said in any area of life, like just the lack of priority due to the crazy evolution we've seen. Like our parents grew up with dial phones, no internet. Our parents have seen the craziest amount of evolution. My dad was born in 1955. From there to where we're at now, that's mind-boggling on where the evolution is. But guess what? The fundamentals in every sport, the fundamentals financially, the fundamentals as humans was the same in 1955. And we've lost sight of that because we've lost priority and we've lost perspective on what we need to prioritize.
Absolutely. The other part to kind of put a bow on what we're talking about with communication is the next layer to that is first and foremost, the fundamental, we'll use the coffee shop example. You shouldn't be thinking, I don't have time to treat this person with respect. I don't have time to ask this person how their day is going. Well, of course you do, because they have time to pour you your coffee. And in that time, you could ask them how they're doing instead of sitting there texting while they're doing it for you. And that is a fundamental. You decide if your standard is, I want to make somebody's day today. I want to treat people with dignity and respect. That is a choice. That is a standard. That is a fundamental. That is what existed. It's when people my age and younger go out with their parents and usually even their grandparents, it's like the younger generation gets annoyed. Oh, dad, how do you know everybody? Why is that annoying? That's how it's supposed to be. And half the time, I used to say that as a kid and then I grew up. So if you're a grown up thinking that, like, grow up. Like, you're supposed to become that person. Because what you realize is that half the time when you'd bump into people, they weren't even actually people that your parents or your grandparents knew. They were just people that they were being nice to, that they bumped into along the way. Because that's what you're supposed to do to create community. And because we forgot that, we've also forgot the next fundamental, which is the courage to speak honestly. Because not only do we not communicate well, we don't communicate truthfully. The thing that's slipping is the self-censorship, the fear of social punishment, the silence that's disguised as being nice. And that's something I shared on Instagram recently, is the difference between being a nice guy and a good man. And this whole concept of, how about instead of wanting the world to see you as nice, how about you be nice? How about you be kind? And being kind is telling the truth even when it's hard. It's doing the right thing even when it's hard. And that doesn't mean be a total jerk, which is something I owe some people apologies for. I'll be straight up, because in the past I've definitely conflated being honest with maybe not having the best tone. But that doesn't, what I've learned is that that doesn't mean I need to bite my tongue or not tell the truth. It just means I need to find a way to be more articulate in a calm and respectful and open manner. But the minute that you start to not tell the truth, it's going to become destructive because you're just going to be resentful and you're going to feel like you don't fit in and you're going to feel morally conflicted all the time. But I'm sure you've got an example or two or a thought or two on that.
The one that comes to mind is, well, first I gotta say this. Like I had that same thing happen when we would go to the store as kids or anywhere with my dad. My dad was a teacher for his whole career. And I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but like a 50 something year old with a whole family would come up, oh, Mr. Cooper. I'd be like, oh, did you teach with my dad? No, no, he taught me grade 8 math. And I'm like, what? But it wasn't just like a one off. It was all the time. We'd be at a bar, we'd be at the Apple store, we'd be at Lululemon, like, but that effect wasn't my dad just being a teacher. It was, him being a tough, fair, fun teacher that left an impact in how many hundreds of these kids' lives that went to Sir John A. Macdonald in Calgary. Like, and then the teachers that he taught with, the teachers that came in as kids, as 22-year-olds that he mentored and did that. Like, it's we call it the Cooper effect in our house because like that's what my dad did, and it's like, man, that's so cool. What a lasting impact, right? And if you ask my dad, he's like, nah, it's no big deal because that's just how they were raised. Like that's how we do things. Why would I be a jerk or why would I be cold towards somebody when I have no reason to? And even if the person across the table from you is not your cup of tea and they're completely different from you, they have different views, there's no point to be rude to them. If the only thing you do is leave a lasting impact in somebody and that could be, and that guy opened the door, or when he comes into the coffee shop he always says good morning to the whole team, or when they're in the drive-through they talk to me while I'm making their coffee. Like those are small things, but they leave a lasting impact because if nobody knows what everybody's going through, and that person could have had the worst morning of their life. They could have spilled their coffee, had to go change their clothes, dropped their keys, locked the keys in the car, had to go get the spare keys. Like, this chain of events of like, oh, this is going to be the worst day ever. But you just simply like, good morning, opening the door because you saw them coming in rushed. That could be like the one good thing that happened. So just like that genuine good human fundamental of like, do good unto others, others do good unto you. It's pretty simple. You don't need to be a messiah. You don't need to be, right, the best human being in the world. You just need to be a good human at the core. And you could take that into anything you do. If you're just a good human, that is one of the most fundamental things we need to do in order to have a successful life, in order to have a life that isn't draining, because you're draining your own battery just by being a bad person. So fundamentally, just be good.
The best affirmation I think someone can have for themselves is I don't stop making good decisions because somebody else makes a bad decision. And it seems like that's how people are living their lives right now. Well, everybody only cares about themselves, so I'm going to become that way too. How is that working any closer to the community you wish to hold? If you are hoping that it's the common thing I see a lot among my generation is people going, man, I just wish we could get back to the good old days. Then be the example. Be the bright spot in somebody's day. When somebody, like you said, Greg, has 12 bad things happen, but they remember the one good one, they're probably going to pay that forward to somebody else. And you start a chain reaction of paying it forward. It's the buying a coffee for the next person in line effect, but with a smile or a compliment or something that doesn't even cost money. That's everybody. I love this post that's going around social media right now. That's everybody wants a village, but nobody wants to be a villager. Well, be a villager. Study what that looks like. Go talk to your grandparents about what they did for other households growing up. Do you know your neighbors? When was the last time when you saw your neighbor out shoveling snow? You don't necessarily have to spend all the time shoveling the driveway, but just go have a conversation with them and say, "Hey, do you and your wife have any time in the next couple weeks to just sit in the garage and have a beer?" Or do you guys want to do dinner one night or get to know one another? Because yeah, as my kids grow up in this neighborhood here, I would like them to know the neighbors. I would like them to be able to go to the park without my wife and I. And if they do something wrong, that there's another parent that lets me know so that we can discipline them when they get home. Not be the parent that's like, oh, my little Johnny would never do that. Really? That's where we've got to. You don't want any sort of shared community accountability for the behavior of children. And then we wonder why our kids aren't safe anymore. Yeah, there's some nasty stuff going on in the world for sure. But the other part of it is a generation or two ago when the kids would play outside, you know that if there's 12 kids out there, there's 24 sets of eyes on those kids.
Mhm.
And so that when one parent needs to duck out to do some laundry and the other one's at work and the other one's whatever, yeah, my mom doesn't have to parent me all the time because my next door neighbor who's a friend that I'm playing road hockey with, their parents are taking the load. And it wasn't even scheduled or pre-planned. There was just a collective understanding, a fundamental that as a caregiver, we're a caregiver for the community and we're keeping the community safe. And now we don't even know our neighbors, let alone have that shared sense of responsibility.
Well, one really quick thought, then I'm going to expand on what you said there, Coop, just on the, riding the bikes across the street and playing. That's why, like, one of my favorite moments as a judo coach forever is when we get new young students in, the new white belts from, the 7-year-olds to, 14. Sometimes they come with a friend or a sibling, but the vast majority, let's say in a class of 10, maybe a couple know each other. And within that first class, they become friends, and you can see, okay, these guys are always going to be partners. They just automatically, hi, my name's Greg. Hi, my name's Cooper. Great. Let's run together. Oh, let's do this drill together. Oh, we're going to play British Bulldog. We're going to protect each other within an hour class. But within that first 15 minutes, they've like all made friends and they're laughing because they're just kids being kids and they haven't had the opportunity to have the fundamentals of that wrecked yet. And so that to me is just like I love those moments because it's so great and I'm like I just want to keep that. And I see it with my older students too. I have this one student came in, a little awkward, confidence was low, and he's like really as a judo guy, he's really progressing. But my favorite moment was I was coaching a class and I saw him come in and he's walking by all of our top competitive team members and they're handshaking them, giving them knuckles, bro, what's up? And a lot of them are Russian. They're all speaking Russian to each other. It's like, he's one of the boys now. Yes. Perfect. Like if that's the only thing, that's the biggest thing that he achieves in judo, I'm like, perfect. He is one of the boys. He came in, didn't know who he should talk to. Am I allowed to talk to the black belts? Like, no, now he's going, doing rounds with these guys. I'm like, perfect. Because fundamentally, those kids have those good values. And I'm so proud of them for that because they create that community. To your point on the villager, everybody wants to be a village. Everybody wants to have a village. No, nobody wants to be a villager. I think the fundamental on that is very primal. All of our ancestors, I'm talking way, way back, were capable of violence, capable of hunting, gathering, protecting, building, nourishing, the list goes on. If they didn't have those capabilities to survive, none of us would be here. Your bloodline would have died out before the wheel was invented. Right? So we've lost that capability. And because we've lost that capability, we've lost that, yeah, the kids can just go out. But, even when we were kids 20 years ago, when we were riding our bikes, we didn't have emergency cell phone to tuck in our back pocket. It was, where's the bikes at? It was, well, they're probably at the park or the playground or the soccer field or the Jimmy's garage because he's got a Sega. So they're all playing Sega right now. Nobody was worried. And yes, there are things that go on in the world that make that a little different. However, I believe the biggest thing is as a society, we've lost that capability of, yeah, well, I know I have that capability as a father. So does Mark next door. So does Bill. So does Jim. So does Jeff. Our street, we're safe. Nobody's going to be in danger here because we know each other. And even if you don't have those capabilities, going back to the communication fundamental, if you just knew your neighbors on the street, that gives security because, like, well, I know everybody on a first name basis. Nobody gave me that, like, ooh, that guy's my neighbor. Okay, let's make sure that, we just watch that. Whatever that instinct told you that that person is maybe not the most desirable, but there isn't that communication. And I think if I were to live in the city long term, I would like to live in a cul-de-sac because everybody I know who lives in a cul-de-sac is like best friends with their whole neighbor, and they have like cul-de-sac parties and all this. My uncle lives in a cul-de-sac. They have parties all the time. And it's a mix. There's families, there's single guys, there's new couples. Like it's not all the same demographic, but they're all friends and they all hang out together and have dinner parties. And like everybody should live in a cul-de-sac one time in their life. To learn that, just know your neighbors. And then it's not scary when your kids go out across the street. You know where they're at. They're either at Michael's or Mark's or Bill's or whoever. But we've lost that capability of, or we've lost that fundamental of capability and just back to the communication side of like, hey, I just moved in. Nice to meet you.
100%. There's two ways that that conversation can go about capability. And even everything we've talked about so far, there's two types of people that are listening to this right now. The first type of, I guess three. The first type of person goes, Coop, Greg, you guys are right. I'm going to continue to set a great example if you already have been, or maybe, you know what, maybe I've been slipping in some areas. I want to be that pillar in my community, in my house, on my street, wherever. There's the second type of person that this sounds awesome. I just don't know where to start, or I'm nervous to start. Here's what I'll say to that is it's your duty and responsibility to be first in line, not last in line. It doesn't matter whether your neighbor is doing it or not. You go be that. If somebody makes fun of you for that, they're a loser. The right people, when they see you doing that, will go, thank you for contributing to society in a positive light. You need to take personal responsibility for your actions, and you need to be first in line in setting the example. You're the one. Don't sit in your garage with the garage open with a case of beer, hoping that the people who walk by come up the driveway. When the people walk by, invite them up the driveway. If people aren't walking by, go out for a walk. And when people are in their driveway, have a chat with them. And yeah, I mean, if they shut the lights off or don't want to talk or don't have the time or whatever, don't take it personally because it's about them. It's not about you. And your standard is that you're doing right by your community. So be first in line because there's a lot of people that are listening to this right now who I know that you want what Greg and I are talking about because I've heard you say before that you wish the world could get back to campfires and backyard barbecues and social, and we have that fundamental desire for human connection. So if that's lost, don't wait for a community to create it for your community. The third type of person has listened to the last bunch of this episode and just doesn't care to have it. You're just a bad person. Like you need some, I don't know if it's therapy. I don't know if it's personal development. I don't know if it's perspective, but you're not entitled to the gifts of the world with that. Everyone wants to talk about their rights. No one wants to talk about their responsibilities. So if you're sitting here going, I'm good in my quiet life and not knowing my neighbor and not contributing to my street. And it's like, you see all those like Hallmark Christmas movies. You're the one person on the street with your whole house blacked out while everyone else has Christmas lights up and they're having a good time. Like you're Mr. Scrooge. And unfortunately, yeah, there's like 50 to 75% of society now that is like that one Mr. Scrooge that everybody used to know and used to make fun of. And I'll take that a step further, Greg, is if we're going to make fun of somebody, if we're going to give a group of people a hard time, we need to get away from making fun of people who are trying to get fit, trying to get sober, trying to be positive, trying to build relationships, trying to start businesses, trying to put themselves out there on social media. Ideally, we get to a world where no one's being given a hard time. Nobody's being making fun of. But if we had to make fun of a particular group or give a hard time to a particular group, make fun of the Scrooge. Make fun of the fat person that's not trying. Difference now, fat person in a gym who's trying, be that person's biggest cheerleader because they're trying. The person who doesn't care, that's sitting on Facebook commenting on the Olympics and they're sitting there with Cheeto dust on their belly tweeting, oh, that girl only got silver instead of bronze, first place loser, ha ha ha. It's like, dude,
Team Canada, you guys suck. We lost to the US.
yeah, like grow up. You're doing nothing for society. You're being the neighbor that we can't count on. Because I know if my kids got abducted at the end of the driveway and you saw it and I didn't, you're too fat to chase the person down the road. So I can't count on you. If you're broke and you're not trying to do anything about it, and my car breaks down and the kids need a ride to school, but you can't afford to put gas in the tank or can't afford to buy a vehicle to take the kids to school while I'm fixing my vehicle, you're not a dependable neighbor. And what sparked me wanting to talk about this, Greg, I'll tell this story, is a few houses down from me, someone got stuck in the snow this morning trying to get out of the driveway. So her car is halfway out the driveway, halfway in the driveway. And I was out on a walk, so I stopped to help her. Another guy had pulled his vehicle off to the side of the road and stopped to help her. We had probably 20 other cars over the course of half an hour drive by. Not a single one of them stopped. And not only did not a single one of them stop, probably half of them, and like not even stop to roll down the window and check. It's one thing to say, hey guys, I'd love to help, but I really gotta run my kids to school. If you're back here in 15 minutes, I'll be right back. Or, hey, I know whatever. I know a friend of mine doesn't work until later today. I'll give them a quick call, see if they can come by. I really gotta go. Sorry, but I'll get you some help. Or, hey, I know my brother has a CAA membership. Maybe I'll see if I can get you a tow. Or like just 30 seconds of potential concern. None of that. Like it was like they treated us like people treat homeless people on the side of the road begging for money. They kind of like turned and like, I don't want to make eye contact. It was like so dehumanizing. And we needed probably one or two more bodies to get that car out. That was it. We weren't asking for $10,000. We weren't asking for 2 hours of somebody's time. If we could have got two people, it would have taken probably 45 seconds to get that car out. And I'm not even sure if the car's still out. Finally the girl found somebody called CAA for her to help. And I was like, once I knew they were in good hands, I took back off over here. And not only did, of those 20 people, not only did a bunch of them not stop, there was a half dozen of them that were pissed that we were in the way. And it's like, first of all, you could have U-turned, went one street over, and it would have added 45 seconds onto your trip to wherever you were going. Second of all, okay, so yeah, sorry, I'm laying under the vehicle figuring out if there's a hook where we could hook a rope onto the thing. Or sorry, I'm laying under the side of the vehicle trying to dig out ice. We're out here doing a good deed and you're honking the horn and flipping us off and telling us to get out of the way. When it's like, you should be the one parking, getting out of the vehicle and helping. And if you're not going to help, at least don't make fun of or give people a hard time that are out there doing a good thing. That's the thing that's crazy. It's one thing to not have the time, energy, money, or will to want to go make a difference. It's another thing to get angry with or bother people who are trying to do a good thing. I'm sure smaller example, you post a lot on social media, Greg. I'm sure there's been people, I'm going to unfollow that guy, he posts too much, or man, I don't, like, what are you doing posting so much, whatever. People want to talk. And that's like, yeah, but you're posting content inspiring people to reflect and journal and work out and create community. If you don't like it and you want to be a grouch about it, just mute him, not unfollow, block, talk smack. You can just mute and be quiet about it. You still shouldn't do that because it shows that why are you uncomfortable with the amount of content that you post? Because it's too positive, puts too much of a mirror up. to you about not living an excellent life and being an example and being a dependable neighbor. But yeah, if you are, why are you talking smack? Why are you projecting your own insecurities with, oh, Greg, you post too much? No, what you're really saying is I have no value to be able to post. Yeah. If Greg was posting his breakfast and lunch and dinner and a bunch of nonsense, sure, but just how about we stop posting? I saw the second trigger and then I'll turn it back to you because now I'm just rambling again. Saw a guy post the other day on Instagram about we should implement a new rule for 75 hard that people aren't allowed to post on social media about it. I was like, dude, F you. If somebody who's doing 75 hard posts every day, 75 days in a row to stay accountable to their network that they did it, and one of their followers sees that as inspiration to start doing it, and that one person they inspired does 75 hard for 8 days and then they quit, but it was the first time in a long time that that person committed to doing some fundamental things for 8 days in a row. They read 80 pages of a book, and it was the first time in a long time they read 80 pages of a book, or they got the appropriate water intake for the first time in a long time, or maybe they stopped 75 hard, but along the way they're like, oh, maybe I don't need to do this, but maybe I should get outside a little bit more, increase my step count, start walking. They were an example to one person. So it was just such an ignorant mess. And there's so many people commenting on this guy's post. Oh my God, so true, so annoying when people do that. Yeah, it's like you're complaining about people posting online that they're trying to make themselves better. Why does that make you uncomfortable? So, yeah, sure, at the core, should people be doing a program like that for themselves, not for the vanity online of other people? 100%. But that could maybe the first time they do it, if the first time they're doing it for external validation, well, maybe by the end of the program, if you're not a dick to that person, they'll have read enough books and improved their mindset enough where, yeah, maybe by day 75, they're not seeking external validation anymore. But on day 12, when you're in their network still making fun of them because they're out for a beer and they out for a beer with you and they ordered a 0% beer instead of a real one, you made fun of them instead of respecting that they're trying to challenge. Like, come on. It wasn't super articulate. It just annoys me, man, that people are trying to fulfill a vision for a better future. And as soon as they do, it just crabs in the bucket. Like, how are you not? That's where bullying, like people who try to bring down other people or try to make a better life and be a better community, like those are the people who need to be checked or bullied or call it whatever you want, not the people trying to do great things for life.
The first time I did 75 hard, it was 100% for external validation. 100%. I would go in the air. Most people probably go into that program for that. Maybe not most, but for sure. I was in this group. I was doing it because my brand new boss said, "Oh, let's do this thing," and I wanted to impress him and impress other people. And then by the end of the challenge, I went, "Man, wow, I was so jaded." And then because I realized all the people that had texted me because I was posting, and yeah, that's around that same time as when I started doing the Monday posts and my Tuesday and just like sharing reels and all that stuff and my fitness. Oh man, I still get shit for it. And I don't care. But I did back then. And then I did it to like prove a point. I'm like, no, F you, man. Like I'm gonna keep posting and doing my thing. But then by the end of that first round of 75 hard for me, I went, oh, I've had so many people text me and try it because I'm just a normal guy. Right. And back then I was definitely not who I am today. And it inspired people. And every time I've thought that, man, because it is exhausting sometimes to, put stuff together and edit things and think, oh, I should probably get my phone out at the gym when I don't want to record because it's a low energy day. But then I have students because I coach a lot of kids. Oh, you didn't do a Tuesday post, Sensei. Yeah, you're right. I didn't. So they look forward for that. Or the minute I like think, oh, I'm not going to post, some random person that I barely know DMs me. Oh, I needed to see that. So it's like, okay, that's the goal. The goal isn't likes, clicks. If that was my metric for why boy, have I failed. I have like 2,000 followers. Like I ain't making money off of this, but I know that there is a chance that I'll inspire one person today. And if that's all I accomplish in the day, that's a pretty good thing. So, yeah, the hate, the ridicule, all that stuff, yeah, it's going to come. It's going to come no matter what you do or how big. And the bigger you get and the more successful you get, you're going to get more because people aren't mad at the outcome. They're mad that you got there before they did because they weren't doing the steps. They weren't going through the fundamentals of, okay, so I'm starting here today. My first post was grainy video. The audio sucked. I stumbled over my words. It took me 30 takes and I was angry. And then I just said, I just posted it. And then you look 10 more videos in the future. Oh, I'm getting better. Oh, now you're using CapCut or Instagram edits or Canva or whatever other tools, AI, and you got a cool graphic and some background music. And people are going, hey, that looks really great. And now you're evolving because of the tools we have and you're building from a foundation of what do you need to start a podcast? Again, I was listening to MFCO Project. Andy Frisella was talking about this. He's like, go back to my very first episode and tell me it was good because it was trash. He's like, what do you need to start a podcast? Don't need a microphone. You need some kind of recording device. Every computer has one. Every iPhone has one. You don't even need video. It's gonna suck. It's gonna be terrible. You're gonna not get views. We still don't. Right? Like start. Like if you think you have something worth talking about, if you think you have something to share, if you know you have something to share, just start. Like you got to go. And
Well, and to your point about defining metrics, success metrics, what's the worst case scenario of you starting a podcast? Because that's another reel that I've seen is, oh, we got to stop giving people the mic. We need less podcasts. Really? Because a fundamental human need is to be seen and be heard. And right now we're in a world of people who don't get seen and don't get heard. So if that half an hour recording that somebody puts up, zero people watch it, but it was 30 minutes of therapy for them, projecting out a vision, airing some grievances and projecting out a vision of what they wish that the world looks like and making some commitments as to the person that they're aspiring to be. And it allows them to get some stuff off their chest so that they're not burying it and then becoming another mental health statistic. It allows them to eventually become more articulate, gets them more comfortable with seeing their face on a Zoom screen or a Teams screen or a Google Meet screen so that the next time that they're in a work meeting, they know how to share their screen or they know how to record audio or they're just comfortable with looking at themselves. They know when to go on mute, when to not go on mute, things like that. These are all transitional skills that can help you in the workplace. And the more valuable you are in the workplace, the more you're contributing to your economy and to your society. So if we, like you said, Greg, if we stopped making the metric about number of followers, number of likes, number of comments, and just focused on skill development and having fun and mental health, then we would be in a much better place. And yeah, more people should have the mic. More people should be willing to hop on here and share their honest thoughts and their desires. And if you feel like the world is lacking a little bit of scripture and a little bit of faith, talk about faith. Talk about what it's done for you. If you think it's lacking financial education, talk about it. If you think it's upsetting to see how we've never had more resources, back to the tools fundamentals thing, never had more saunas and ice baths and personal trainers and nutrition programs and everything that's out there, and more of an obesity problem, get back to fundamentals. Do I need a sauna and an ice bath in my garage, or can I get out for a walk and drink a glass of water? I would argue people hundreds of years ago were way more fit than what people are today, even though the tools and the drugs and the steroids are way better.
yeah, really quickly on that last point, I mean, you look at all the Greek statues, these statues of these heroes from Greek and Rome and all these ancient civilizations, they weren't 20 years old. These were 40-year-old, 45-year-old, 50-year-old men that were chiseled, 12-pack, big muscles because they were fitter, because they were capable, because they had to be. Back to one of my earlier points. If they weren't, that bloodline was dead. if they weren't warriors, if they weren't savage servants, if they weren't capable men. That's just how it was. But on the podcast point, and the fundamentally, I believe everybody, even people that look for challenge, that like want that hard, that the athletes, the guys that and women that want to challenge themselves, fundamentally hate inconvenience. What's something during a podcast that's inconvenient? Ad reads. This is not a plug for our podcast. Andy, outside of Andy Frisella's podcast, he's like top 5 all time right now. He doesn't have a single sponsor. He funds it out of his pocket. So they can talk about what they want. They don't have to adhere to somebody going, oh, you shouldn't talk about this topic. No ad reads. Everybody has YouTube. Oh, stupid commercial. That's their reaction for sure. They could pay to get rid of it, but no, they're going to complain every time that pops up. They're listening to Joe Rogan. Oh, it's AG1. I know Joe Rogan. I'm supposed to take greens. And they skip past it. So if that's something that annoys you, but you're also that person that says there's too many podcasts, take away the mic. Listen to the small podcasts. There's no ad reads. They don't have money for that. They don't have reach to get a sponsor to pay them because a sponsor wants them to have 1,000 followers first. So if fundamentally that's something that makes you angry, search for the podcast nobody knows about. Some of the podcasts I've listened to the longest were ones that I stumbled upon and I went, man, this is great. And honestly, over time, I'm like, it's kind of lost its umph because they're so sponsored now. And every 5 seconds, it's an ad read and it's lost its genuine chat. So, like on the podcast side there, again, yeah, the tools have evolved. Yes, the biggest shows in the world get funded hundreds of millions of dollars. Their audio is crystal clear. Their video is amazing. They're editing, all of this stuff. The guests they get on. And they're still great conversations, don't get me wrong. I love Joe Rogan. I love, Cam Haines. I love all these podcasts. But every once in a while, I'm like, I just wish it was like how it used to be. Free, open conversation, no holds barred, genuine, real. They're going to piss people off. They're going to really get on that because fundamentally that's what they all want. But also, fundamentally, it's a need for that financial piece, and that's where they're going to get it from. So, it's funny when people complain about the things they hate, but they will never avoid those things they hate because they'd rather complain about it than just find a new option and break that mold and go, oh, I'm listening to this new thing, or I'm supporting my friend's podcast, or I'm supporting this random person. Their first 2 episodes were so great content, such great knowledge shared, and there wasn't any bias to it. I knew they weren't promoting XYZ product or XYZ company because the audio sounded like they were talking in a box. But the quality of that content was amazing because of what was said, not what had to be said.
Exactly. Another fundamental that stems from exactly what you're talking about is one of the fundamentals we've gotten away from is the ability to learn something from everyone. There's a quote online surfacing through a ton of people in the personal development space, and I understand where it comes from, and I do agree with it to a sense of don't take advice from people you wouldn't trade places with in the area you're taking the advice from. So yeah, am I going to take health advice from someone who's 400 pounds? Probably not. Am I going to take marriage advice from somebody who's been divorced 3 times? Probably not. Am I going to take financial advice from somebody who's broke? Probably not. I get that in principle. In practice, though, listen to the message, not the messenger. Is there legitimacy to the message? And right now, yes, the tools have evolved in the sense of social media has allowed us to get access to these millionaires and billionaires and super fit people. So I can say, you know what, yeah, unless they look like this person who's chiseled, I'm not going to take advice from them. Well, what if someone has an extra percent or two of body fat than you, Mr. Chiseled, but they're the ones helping busy moms. And you're chiseled because you're single and you work 30 hours a week, so you've got time to do two a days and eat clean and you don't have a bunch of expenses and whatever. But then this personal trainer over here maybe doesn't look as great as you or have a blue check mark or have as many followers. Uh, but she's also a mom of two and outside of personal training has to work another job and finds time for personal training on the side. Well, that to me would be someone who's more relatable because she's actively living maybe the day to day that my wife is living and has made some adjustments in her life and can coach my wife through, hey, I know exactly what you were going through because I've been you. And here's a couple of the tweaks that I made to just have some healthier habits. So are we looking at someone's physique and someone's bank account and someone, or can we learn something from everybody? For sure, if I listen to an Andy Frisella podcast or an Ed Milet podcast or Tony Robbins or something like that, will that information naturally hold some more weight? For sure. Does that mean that you should completely disregard other information? No, because then what that leads to is you take a message, and if it's delivered through the mouth of Donald Trump, you love it. But if it's delivered through the mouth of Kamala Harris, you hate it, or vice versa. And you didn't hear the message. And you created your whole identity around who said it based on the number of followers they have or based on what the media tells you should think of that person, as opposed to, was that a good idea or was it a bad idea? Was there weight to that? Was there not? Can I learn something from that or can I not?
The fantastic point. And here is one thing that everybody can do. And I think actually I would suggest at one point in everybody's life they volunteer to coach a kids team, whether it's your sons, your nephews, whatever. Just volunteer. Go work at the YMCA. When you work with kids for any period of time and you don't just be there and "Oh, shut up, stupid little kid, you don't know what you're talking about," because you think you're so much smarter than them. Open up your vision because kids will teach you more than anybody on this planet. When I'm teaching something as fundamental as a somersault, forward roll, right? I go through the steps the way my brain can process it as somebody who's done that since I was 4 years old. And then I get a kid that has a inability to get inverted. They're afraid of rolling forward. Whatever the case, they don't understand the cues I'm giving them. And then one kid goes, "Oh, it's like Sonic the Hedgehog." Exactly. Do your Sonic roll. And then the kid automatically knows because they saw that cartoon and they know how that works. They don't understand. Put your feet down. Pull your head through your legs. Fundamentally speaking, that's a very simple concept for an adult, for most kids. But what about the kid that doesn't get that? Maybe they have ADHD. Maybe they just visualize things different. Even if I show them 100 times me doing it, they're like, "I don't get it." They roll sideways. They just don't know how to do it. They get stuck. But then that kid who went, "Sonic the Hedgehog rolls." And that actually happened because I was wearing my bluegie. He's like, "You look like Sonic just then." I was like, "That is an excellent connection." So now I call them Sonic rolls in that class. And every kid got it immediately. I was like, that's it. Because they see the world different. Somebody on the street will see the world. Everybody sees the world different. But because kids don't have a information bias yet or a confirmation bias yet, it's a connection they'll make. Cartwheel. Oh, it's like a bike tire. Yes. Kids don't know what a cartwheel is. What's a cart? I don't know what that is. Oh, it's like my bike. Oh, it's like a hula hoop. Whatever connection they're going to make, right? They visualize it different. So when you work with kids, you can learn so much from them and think, "Oh, that's how I make that connection." And even more so now, we talk about, "Oh, I wish it was the good old days." References you used to be able to make as a coach to like connect it to Star Wars, even some of these kids don't know what that is. You can't make these references anymore. They haven't seen it yet. They don't know what it is, but they know the new cartoons that are out. So like you have to kind of think, "Oh, what are they looking at now?" Especially if you don't have kids and you're a coach, like you don't know what cartoons your kids are watching. You don't know Paw Patrol. You don't know this stuff. But Working with kids lends you a perspective like none other because it's simple and it is foundational in the way they think because they don't know complex structure yet. And they won't for like 10 years more.
Well, the other thing about evolving, Greg, on this exact topic is the references will change, but the fundamentals are not supposed to. If you have a holiday tradition within your family, yeah, as generations go on, the people at the dinner table are going to change because some people are born and some people die. The traditions don't. The food might look a little bit different, some of it. Some of it will be the exact same. And people want to get back to the good old days. There is potential by if you execute all the things that we talk about, be an example for your community, take the initiative before other people are willing to do it. We're still not going to 100% get back to the good old days. That would require us to say, you know what? Let's get rid of electricity. Let's get rid of the airplane. Let's get rid of cars. Like when you say get back to the good old days, understand how selective you're being. Because yeah, there's what are the pieces when you think that way, what are the things that you actually want to gain back? And when you realize that, you'll start being grateful for how things have evolved. And then you'll start to critically think about how do I attach the good old days with evolving and efficiency and innovation to create the new era. And that's most people miss this, especially as parents, because they're so focused on, man, we're in a phase right now where the kids just aren't sleeping, so we just can't wait till the next phase. Like everyone wants to rush to get out of the newborn era because you get no sleep. It's like, let's get into the newborn era, into the toddler. Oh, but now it's terrible twos. Oh, now they're three-nagers. Oh, well, now they're in school. You have no time with them anymore because half their day spent in school and they're getting programmed by a system instead of just being there with mom and dad. So you just rush to the next stage, rush to the next stage, rush to the next stage. And then you pick your head up and they're 12, 13 years old and mom and dad aren't cool anymore. So they went from, oh, they're being so annoying right now. They always want my attention. They always want my time to, they don't want anything to do with me anymore. Then they leave the house. Oh, I used to complain about their room being messy. Now they don't have a room. And you wish these moments away. And as you're going through them, you just want to get to the next phase. This is why people are so depressed. Nobody's in the moment. They're wishing for the future and the past at the same time. I hope we can get to the next phase, and I wish we could get back to the good old days, not understanding that if you just put this stupid thing down, put your feet in the ground, and your head focused on the things that matter, you're creating the good old days. The good old days, 10 years from now, will be the experiences that you create today. And those experiences don't come by you wishing for the good old days. It becomes you creating the tradition, you creating the good old days. And that's what evolving is you create the good old days with morals and values and principles, the fundamentals we're talking about, but it's just going to look a little bit different. It might be a video call instead of a family gathering because people live in different areas. It might be some different food because before it used to be wine with dinner, but you've got a half dozen people in your family who don't drink anymore. Okay, so maybe you replace it with something. So yeah, the mechanism is going to look a little bit different, but just create the good old days. And that's okay, but just be intentional about it. Stop wishing for the future and for the past. And just the best way to predict your future is to go out and create it.
Yeah, and that statement, it made me think of this. If you asked some of your grandparents about the good old days, they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" My grandparents grew up in war-torn Europe in World War II. What's good old days about that shit? Nothing. Right? Yeah. When you go through the albums in the real good old days, if you want to call it that, when they were building the acreage and all this, yes, but that's still like a modern era. Like that's not very detached, right? But like that phrase, it's just like to me, it's the lazy way of saying like, and you nailed it, Coop, of you're stuck in that gap of wishing for this and wishing for that, but you're here. Yeah, those memories, the good memories, that's what the good old days is. The future, if you live there, you're never gonna be happy and you'll always be depressed. And the times where, I'm a pretty positive person. If you if you've been around me, you know that. And sometimes it's aggravating. But the times where, I've been by myself where I'm like angry or, frustrated or sad or whatever, and I take that and I internalize it and I think about it for a second, it's because I'm thinking too much about the future and thinking about scenarios that I want to happen instead of just making them happen and doing the things to get them. And then I take a breath, I put the things in my journal, I talk to one of my mentors, I talk to one of my closest friends, or I go work out or I go for a ruck or I do something to clear my head and go, why was I so worried about something that could be when I should just be worried about what I need to do today, what's right in front of me? And I take that breath and then I immediately feel better because it's like, if it's going to work out, it's going to work out. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But I'm not going to wait for that to happen. Yeah, if I want that scenario to happen, I better start doing things today that make that a reality. I got to do that. I got to do my power list. I got to do that conversation. I got to make that meeting. I got to, you know, talk to that girl. Whatever that thing is that you're chasing, you got to make it happen. And if you're always living in that gap between, oh, I wish it used to be like that, it was so much easier. Oh, but once I get there, life's going to be great. Don't get stuck in the gap. Just keep going.
Absolutely. There's no success and no nobility in getting to where you want to go, but being miserable in your mind on the way there. You have to enjoy the journey. That doesn't mean don't do hard things. That doesn't mean don't do uncomfortable things. That does mean don't lay in bed at night and beat yourself up all the time. Have fun. It's the point of this thing. I've made money miserable and I've made money fun. I've not made money miserable and I've not made money fun. Fun is always better. And I'll end on these two thoughts on my side, Greg, before you close it off, is whether we're talking about sport, whether we're talking about money, whether we're talking about humanity, I hope that this inspires you to just do a little bit better. If you're doing 9 out of 10 great for your community right now, audit some ways that you could maybe efficiently even do a little bit more. And you know what? Maybe you can't do more, but maybe as you're doing what you're already doing, there's ways to inspire others to do more and compound their efforts and delegate and encourage. Uh, Maybe you're someone who's not doing anything for the community right now. Figure out some ways you could do it. Talk to people that are aspirational figures or people that you know are making a difference or you know have a positive outlook on things. And just understand that if you take the step to get in shape, if you take the step to get sober, if you take the step to be positive, unfortunately, those fundamental things that we're used to are now seen as weird in society. The right people will appreciate it, but you will get made fun of. But you're probably gonna get made fun of either way, first of all. Second of all, the only way to avoid criticism is to do nothing and be nothing. So you might as well, if you're gonna do something, you might as well do something for your community and be positive and do all this stuff. But do it in spite of those people. Don't make getting in shape contingent on everybody around you supporting you and getting in shape. Don't make getting sober contingent on everybody around you needing to do it as well. Historically, for a long time, I was the guy that played team sports growing up. I was the guy that's like, all right, I'm going to do this, but we as a team are going to do this together. We as a family are going to do this together. Well, if I need to count on my parents and my in-laws and my extended family, my friends, and all of them to go and do a sober October with me for me to do it, or to come to the gym with me, why am I leaving my personal responsibility up to dozens of other people? So do it in spite of other people. Now, having said that, if you're one of the people that's not only not doing it, but you're being negative towards people who are doing it, be better. Because yeah, right now, 80% of society is going to joke around about the 20% that are trying to do good. We need to get that 80% number. Historically, it was like 50% or less of society would run their mouth and say stuff. But then it slowly crept up, and then it became the collective norm. So that's you're not chirping these people because you're a fundamentally bad person. Right now, you're being a bad person, you're being a jerk, but you're doing it because you think it's the norm and you think it's cool and you think it's the most socially acceptable thing to do. I just want you to know that if you're doing that, that makes you a bad person. And I'm not judging you for the rest of your life. I just think you're really shitty right now. But you could 180 that tomorrow. And I'm not even saying that you need to be somebody's hype man. You don't need to comment on their 75 hard. You don't need to be the guy that's out shoveling everybody's driveway. At the bare minimum, just be indifferent. When you're out for a beer with the boys and one of the boys orders a near beer instead of a real one, just be the one person at the table that doesn't make fun of them. You don't even need to be the one going, good for you, bro. Proud of you. You could just not be a dick. And that's it. And I think that's people need to understand that when you do stuff like that, yeah, you're a jerk. It's not cool. It's not okay. It's why the same society that you complain about, it's how we got here. Was by historically good people becoming bad people innocently and not even thinking twice about it. So, yeah, there's a lot of evil in the world, a lot of dark in the world. But that's like 1%, 5%, 10% of the world. The other 70% of you, and I know I can talk about this because I used to be this person. I used to be the one that would make fun of Greg. Not Greg specifically, but for people like that who would post a lot.
Cooper makes fun of me. Don't worry, everybody.
But I was the guy that, oh my God, them posting again. Oh my God, them. Come on, just have a drink. Quit it, like just being like a guy's guy, locker room talk. It's not cool. It's created a deteriorating society. And the sooner that you can realize that and move yourself from being part of a problem to part of a solution, I'm living, breathing proof that you can make that adjustment. And it's really not that hard. It just requires you to actually give a shit about people and audit your actions and take personal responsibility and stop looking at the world as like my truth and my traumas. And that's a whole other episode we could get into. But there's no my truth, there's the truth. It's not about your trauma, it's about your duty and your personal responsibility. So go do good things in spite of what other people think and in spite of what other people say. And if you don't have the courage to do good things, at least don't shit talk people who do. And those are my closing thoughts on today.
Part of me wishes I said this way earlier in the podcast, but we said it probably 100 times. At the core of fundamentals is fun. Talked about judo kids. When we start every judo class jogging around the outside of the mats, the older we get and the more we've done judo, jogging. But in my kids' classes, as soon as I say, let's run, what do they start doing? They start playing tag. They start chasing each other. They start doing these silly games because it's fun. We started a sport when we were kids to have fun. I challenge myself because I view that as fun. I hang out with my friends. I'm going to say it again because it's fun. Don't forget. And we all do. We all lose that as we grow up and think we have to be so serious and get a job and wear our tie and go to school and da-da-da. But we forget to have fun. One of my clients, one of their big goals, their BHAG, is to play like a little kid, to have the freedom to play like a little kid. I love that. It's one of my favorite goals a client has told me lately. I'm like, that is awesome. And they have the job they have is so obscenely different from that goal. And I'm like, I love it. Because their focus is, how can I have more fun? How can I go play more sports? How can I, go travel? How can I do these things? At the core of everything you do, there needs to be that aspect of fun. The mundane, make that fun. Oh, I got to go clean. Okay, we'll make it a race. If you have a partner, a girlfriend, a wife, a husband, whatever, and you have to clean the house or you have to do the chores, make it a game. Who can finish their task first? Right? That's fun. Or make it a reward after. Okay, after we do this, we're going to go do that fun thing. We're going to go play pickleball, right? Find a way to make your daily life fun. And fundamentally, at the core of everything you do then, it's going to be more enjoyable than like Obligation, obligation, obligation. I got to do adult things now. Stop it. Be like a kid. And again, I talked about it. Honestly, now it's going to be my biggest piece of advice. At one point in your life, either go coach a kids team, work as a volunteer in a space where it's the kids' summer camp, be the fun uncle, be the fun auntie, play with kids because you're going to learn. And guess what? You're going to have fun because a kid's going to giggle or laugh or do something obscenely funny and silly and stupid. And it's going to make you laugh. And it's going to give you that point of like, oh, I've lost sight of having fun. Kids can have fun doing anything because they don't know anything other than that. So fundamentally, at the core of everything you do, just have fun.
I love it. Let's wrap there. Let us know what you guys think. Drop a comment, challenge us, support us, be better for your community, whatever you feel you need
Make
to
fun
do.
of us, whatever you want
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
to
But
do.
yeah, this was a fun one this week. We went a little longer than normal, but I think a topic that's important. So looking forward to you guys' feedback, and we'll see you next week.
See you, Coop.